make sure this is recording. And so when we're done, I'm going to send you the link, and then you guys can look at the link again. So
great. I love that. Yes.
if something didn't hit you the first time, you can look at the link again.
That's good. Okay. I was reviewing my Spanish. My teacher didn't know how to record at the beginning. And I kind of recorded it myself. And I was going through my video last night. And I was like, wow, this is great. You know, because when you have the video, you go through the notes again. And it clicks if it doesn't click. The first time I listened to it. And then I go, whoa, I love this.
Yeah. No, it's really good.
Yeah.
Well, we only have a couple of people on right now. We have 5 people on. Well, Natalia, you got 2 windows open. Oh, there you go. I'm not sure. Okay. All right. Natalia, do you have your sound on? I don't know if you have your sound. But I hear somebody talking, but I don't know. Okay. So what's going to happen is people will sign on, you know, eventually. There'll probably be more people. But some people, I don't know if they're good with this, if they understand how to do it.
Mr. Osborne, I'm not good at this, okay? And I got in. The rest of them are young kids, so they can get in.
Well, I couldn't log in on my other class. I don't know why. And in this one, it was like super easy to do it.
Right? I have a lot of problems with my Spanish class, and with this one, I just copy and pasted the first time. But then
I did that too.
But then it
was
didn't
so
work,
fast.
and I decided to take the number off when I copy and paste it.
Okay.
So it worked so fast.
Yeah, for my other class, we couldn't log in, and a lot of other classmates, they posted that they couldn't log in either. What happened? Maybe she sent the wrong link.
I don't know.
Well, she'll learn. You know, it's if you haven't done it, I haven't done it. This is my first. So,
and are you guys getting training for this?
We get training online.
Oh, online.
We can't even go in and talk to anybody.
So the main campus is closed?
Totally closed.
Wow.
We're not going to be back in class this semester.
And then, like, for instance, for me, I rent some books to return them. How am I supposed to do that?
Oh.
Yeah. So I think there's in the library, there's like a hole in the wall. You can push it through.
Oh, but we can go in then?
I don't know. I haven't been there yet. I'm going to go today. I'm going to actually go today because I have to do some couple things. But
I would do that, Ilse, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Throw them into that little window, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if they don't let you on campus. No, you can't. It's not your problem. Let them think about it. It's not your problem.
Well, they're being pretty good about everything right now, you know, because of what's going on.
Yeah. You have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, this is recorded so that you don't catch on right away. And again, we do it later. I have some files up, and we're going to be talking about those files. And I'm going to take you through it. I want to show you what I'm doing. Kind of look at it. So, Kareem, you have your sound on? I'm trying to get his sound on. I don't know. Yeah, so we're gonna start to go through it. Some people will keep coming in, which is okay. And again, it is being recorded, so if you missed it from the beginning, you can. I'm going to send you the link, and you can do it. All right. So hopefully you guys have all read this piece because I'm going to take you through it. But if you haven't read it, it's a little tricky. And I do have 2 examples here that people sent me that I can kind of talk about. Sonia's not here yet, but she sent me a pretty long paper, 6 pages actually. So maybe she's going to be on later on. Yeah. Okay. Comparison. You guys know comparison? You think you know comparison? What it looks like?
Mm.
I did mine, but I haven't uploaded it. I had an issue with my internet service, but I'm back now. Yeah.
You're back. Okay. All right. Well, you gotta pay the bill.
Oh yes, I did. I paid. I had my bill paid, but I don't know. It says on this zone, it was down the
Yeah.
internet. I don't know why.
Well, there's a lot of people. There's
Well,
a
you
phone.
know what? I used to do my homework with my hotspot on my phone.
Wow.
Yep. Every single time I got on the internet, I will take the, internet from my phone. But then my daughter came from Texas and she's doing online classes. And I said, we can't do this. So I had to get the internet. And I love it. Oh, it's so nice just to open up the computer and there you are, as opposed to doing a lot of things with your phone.
Yeah. Well, my phone's old, so forget it. So let's start talking about the idea of what comparison is first, and then we're going to go through the papers and kind of look at the papers and see what each person is saying and figuring out, okay, what are all the points this one person's making and what are all the points the other person's making, and then we can decide, so what do we want to compare? We need to compare about 3 things, and that's it. And Charles was right. So what you want to do is you want to take stuff out of the essay when you read it, copy it, say, or put it in your own words. And if we were talking about what one person says about children, then you can say, well, this person said this thing about children, and here is the evidence that this is what they were saying. And then you go, in contrast, the other person said this stuff about it, and like that. And then that becomes a comparison paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to continue with mine because I said, you know what, maybe I'm just working extra and it's not going to be right what I'm saying, but I'm glad you're corroborating that.
Yeah. So let's start. So I don't know if you can see the bottom of this, but this button over here, the first button, can you guys see this button? Yeah. The bottom of the page. Does that show for you?
Where at? I don't see it.
Bottom of the page just doesn't show.
Oh yeah.
You can see it?
Under the share screen.
Yeah, it says mute, stop video. What do you have that on your screen?
Well, I'm so sorry. What are you talking about?
Well, okay, so you may not have controls on your screen. I don't know. Do you have at the very bottom of the screen? Do you have controls?
Yes.
You do. So your first one says mute, right?
Yes.
For the microphone.
Yes.
So you want to have that on so you can talk when you want to.
Okay.
And the next one is video. So you kind of, most of us want to have video so we can see face to face.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so you want to turn that on. I have a little share button. I don't know if you guys have the share button at the bottom. It's in green.
Yes, share screen.
Yeah, so I'm going to be sharing the screen with some files I have to show you what things look like. This little chat thing I've got on over here. And so if you look at the right of your page, if you just wanted to say anything to people, it'll come up and, you can just type stuff in. Oops.
The chat button.
The chat button, yeah, and you just in there. So at the bottom of it is kind of where you type.
Okay. Looks like Karen is still trying to connect.
Oh, well, hopefully she can do it. I mean, she's here. It depends on if her phone has a, if it has the audio. She may be able to listen, but she may not be able to speak. So I don't know. It could be that way. So I don't know. But yeah. Okay, so let's start with this idea of, let's see what we're gonna, well, first of all, I want to show you this part. You guys can see this?
You?
Hold on. Okay. All right, so I wanted to start with the home page, the page, like when you guys are on. So start, and I know it's a little slow, it just goes slow.
Yes, I see it.
All right, so home page, and you notice it says announcements. If you clicked on announcements, then it
Yes.
tells you, in order what's going on. And if you miss something, you can go back down and look at that. And then the next thing is, this is what they call the activity screen. The next thing is conversations. So here's conversations. People can put a conversation in there. People can reply to it. People can ask questions in there. And either peers will answer it or I'll answer it like that. Assignment notifications. So we have notifications. This is just reminding people that they have revisions. If you have revision of anything, to post that. It's just telling you to do it. And then that pretty much is, well, yeah, discussions. We have discussions. And so this was, you should be putting questions you have. Here's a comparative analysis part. So this sort of explains to you that what I wanted you guys to do, and maybe it's hard to understand, is type in here. So answer in terms of those things that you might compare. So one of them that we talked about in this piece, because I showed you, was children. And this is a tricky thing, so I wanted to put that up for you. Gallagher says that children in married or single families are more likely to be victims of child abuse, fail at school, and use drugs. Well, I don't know what her sources are, but that's what she says. And then in contrast, do you see where I have it in contrast? So in contrast, Cutrone states that what really matters is a healthy emotional total stability, not marriage. She's arguing that. And I think that's one reason a lot of people get divorced, because if it's not working out between them and their husband or their wife, the children feel that, and it's not always good for them. Sometimes with divorce, it's better for the kids because they feel like, okay, you won't have those arguments anymore. It's very stable now. I feel more secure, because children need to feel secure. So there are two sides to that argument. Is it just better because there's two people, or is it better because it's happy and it's stable? Gallagher doesn't really talk about that. She just assumes if you're married, it's going to be better, which I think is kind of naive in many ways.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah. So something you might want to. Anyway, those are the two reasons. And then they talk about status. That's another one they talk about. And I didn't put anything in there for you, but I mean, that's just an example of stuff.
So that was my question.
What's that?
Where do I put status? At the end of those two quotes?
Where you put the comments or what?
Where it says status.
Okay, let me do one thing. I'll come back to this. Because my screen looks a little different than yours. Let me get the student view. That's what you're looking at. Now we look at the questions. Okay, and now we look at this one. Okay. And so you can see that people just typed in their comment. They just typed in their comment. There's two people typed in. So let's look at this one. She says, oh, she says health. So that's maybe something she's looking at. Gallagher says it's good for your health. She has a lot of statistics. Catron says you can be lonely. So, status. I don't know if Gallagher really recognizes that. Cutrone does, because if you're an unmarried person in society, you feel the weight of not being married. And if you're a married person, there's a lot of kudos. People are always saying good things about being married and, oh, good you're married and like that. And if you're not married, often they have questions about you. So, so there's that. So Cutrone thinks that marriage sometimes makes you isolate from other people. Okay, so these are what different people said. You guys both kind of said, yeah. Okay, so let's get out of, well, we saw home. Go back to that one. Assignments is kind of important. That's just a group by itself. And so if you look at this one, the comparative analysis I had a date on to start working on. We want to get that done by next week. So I'm going to put place to post the actual essay in this. And so we're gonna have a due date of maybe next Thursday for a rough draft. And then after this paper, we have one more paper, which is kind of an argument, and that's it.
End of semester?
Well, and that'll end the semester. You know, as well, these are not dated because these are revisions, so some people still had to revise the Some Mexicans Are Taking Jobs one, the response paper, and then some people had to still revise the definitional argument one, where you had to define what you think America is, and then you had to argue we need these particular things, we need these things, or the dream needs this, and then you had to have paragraphs for that. So some people had to revise that, and I don't have them all. Okay, people right here. So if you click on these, you can sort of email people if you want. That way you can find them, talk to them.
But I tried to do that, and the email did not appear when I clicked on, you know, some person, whatever, whoever. I thought that the email would appear, but it didn't.
You just have to click it right there and
Yeah.
write something, isn't it? Just send it.
Yep.
Click on where, I'm sorry?
Right there on the name of the person you want to talk to it, and then it will appear
Where it says,
the
for
little
instance,
box where you have to type, and that's it. You send it.
really?
Yes.
Oh.
So files, we have files, and so the ones for this are under 11482, and then one of the paper we're doing now is all of these things. These are mostly handouts that I gave you. We're going to be looking at some of those because I think we need to cover what you maybe didn't understand. And then I have some class notes already from this that we're going to be looking at, and so they're saved there in case you wanted to look at them. And you know how I usually write things on the board? It's the same. So if I click on this, it'll open for me.
That's your files, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it would look like if it were written on the board.
Okay.
So this we turned in last time, and so what we wanted to do is think about what comparison is like. Maybe look at an example. We did a chart last time because I think we compared two cars. We looked at things like gas mileage and cost of insurance and I don't know, the features they had.
Is
Like,
that the one that you said that you were going to type the notes for us? Or,
this is kind of the notes here.
right. No, I do have my notes. I
Yeah,
wrote that.
yeah, this is kind of the notes. So the idea of two sides. And then this thing is, we want to be thinking about what is each essay arguing? So we think Gallagher's arguing to be married. That's what she keeps saying. Oh, it's so much better to be married. And hers is really easy because she gives you 10 reasons. That's easy. You just look through the reasons and figure it out. Catriona is a little different. Catriona sort of is very talky, and she sort of talks through her things. So you have to find out, well, what are her reasons for thinking that marriage is not so great? And you look for that. What's the reason? I'll show you that one. And then we want to find if there's information that support or back these ideas. So if Catriona says it's not so good, and she says, here's a reason that you can be lonely, what examples does she give? Because Gallagher's going to say, you're not ever lonely, you've always got somebody you're living with, and that becomes your best friend. And she'll have some examples under that. So when you compare those two, you have what Catriona says, and you do, in contrast, what Gallagher says. And then you go into your next point, like that. So a paragraph is sort of a split paragraph. It's got everything. It has a topic sentence that says what Gallagher says. I'm sorry. It has a topic sentence that says what you're comparing. Let's say you're comparing children, how they both fill out children. And then you start out, say, with Gallagher, and you explain what Gallagher argues is better in marriage. And these are the reasons. And then now you have to do Catriona, so you put something in the middle of the paragraph that sort of makes a change in who's talking. And so you would put something like, in contrast, or on the other hand, or unlike Gallagher, Catriona says this, believes this other thing. And then you put her evidence for that. And that's what a comparison paragraph looks like. And you need three of those body paragraphs when you decide on the 3 points you want to compare. There's many points to compare, but we'll talk about a few today. And then in the essays themselves, do they talk about the other side? And we're going to kind of look at that when we look at the essays. Because when you make an argument, you also have to consider that who you're arguing against and what are the beliefs. So probably in their essays, not only are they supporting themselves, but they're saying, oh, the other guy's wrong. So we're going to look for that. The best way to start this thing is to make a little chart. So you make a little chart where you say, okay, Gallagher, the three I want to look at, well, it's better to start with Catriona, really, because she doesn't have so many points. Look at Catriona's points, pick three out that you want to work with, and then say, okay, now we'll look at Gallagher. Gallagher has 10 things. Can I compare what Catriona's saying to any of the things that Gallagher's saying? Same way with the cars. You couldn't say, well, I'm going to talk about gas mileage in one, but I'm going to talk about the features in the other one. So this little Prius gets me, I don't know, 60 miles to the gallon. But darn it, that Mercedes doesn't have leather seats. You can't compare like that. You have to compare the same thing. Features, gas mileage, like that. So you'd be doing the same thing. If you do children, you're doing children in Gallagher. You're doing children with Catriona. It has to be the same point, second point.
So how many criteria do you want us to write about?
Three.
Three would be good. Three would be
Okay.
enough. Yeah.
Okay, so the rough draft
Yeah, rough draft.
is due next Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you wanna post it before that, I will still comment on it for that.
Okay.
So I mean, you don't have to wait until next Thursday, but I mean, I'm just saying.
All right. Oh, I'm not waiting. Because the last time you said to me, sorry, classes. Homework was due.
how terrible of me. This little thing is file.
I couldn't hear you, Mr. Osborne.
Oh, I was sort of, so I wanted to bring this up. You guys have this handout, but it's also one of the files. Talking about when you write a comparison, and so it explains to you either similarities or similarities and differences. But most of the time we're going to talk about what's the same. But sometimes when you compare things, like the viewpoints of each one on children, they're going to be different. Still you're comparing, same point. So you can, when you write this, comparison's good to make something clear to people, like which one is the better car to buy, lead to some insight. Boy, I never thought about it that way. Bring the subjects back into sharper focus. So marriage is an interesting thing because most people just assume it's better to be married, but there are some negatives or some disadvantages on the other side. We're going to look at that. And in the long run, if you were comparing something, if you were doing the cars, you would decide which one for you is better. It doesn't mean they're better, but if for your lifestyle it's better, and you would buy that one. So that actually is an analysis. With these two, you might have an opinion, but you're not really going to express your opinion. I think in the end you're going to say that some of these points that Gallagher expresses are very good. Some of them are not well supported, and Cutrone does make some good points. So in the long run, there's many ways to look at marriage because there's many types of relationships in this country. A lot of people live together, they're not married. On the other hand, a lot of people are divorced. They still have some association with their prior wife or husband. And that's still a relationship, especially if you have children. You're never going to get rid of the wife or the husband, even if you're married, because they'll always be part of your life with weddings and things like that. So there's a lot to talk about that way. Make sure you do the same points. You want that. And what you guys are going to organize is what's called point by point, because you're looking at the same criteria, if you will, or the same points that both people are doing. When you're in the middle of your paragraph, you've got two things. First of all, when you start your paragraphs, when you start them off, you're going to go, well, so-and-so talks about this. In addition, she also talks about this or like that. In the middle of the paragraph, where you're going between Gallagher and Cutrone to Gallagher, you're going to use this. However, on the contrary, in contrast, although, on the other hand. So this is a nice little list to look at. And then we looked at this before. This is a really simple one. I think they're talking about, this one is cats and dogs, which is sort of dumb. And they're talking about this one impacting the person's lifestyle, cost. I mean, they have some things they're looking at. So that's what it looks like. And this is the side you want to do over here, not that side. This is the side you want to do. In conclusion, you want to think about, well, what insight do I have about marriage now? And that's where you'd be significance of the topic. You'd be talking about that. You can also have an evaluation where you might decide that one of the people did a better job in arguing her point. Not that you believe, it's not so much what you believe, it's which one did a better job in doing that in your mind. If you're trying to figure it out, some people like to make these circles, so you might put Gallagher over here with the things you want to look at, Cutrone over here, and when you find things that match, you move them to the middle, like that, and then you know, okay, those are the three things I can compare because they're both talking about that. And in that way, this piece right in the center is what they're both talking about. That sort of helps you figure out, well, do they match or can I compare them? No, I'm not going to do the black one. Here's the point-by-point one, which is what you're doing. And so if you're looking at introduction, introduce the topic, talk about marriage a little bit in a general way maybe, and then specifically we would be talking about advantages and disadvantages. And your thesis sentences here are the points that you would want to be talking about, and that's that. Body paragraphs have a topic sentence, so if you were talking about children, that would be your topic sentence. And then you would also, maybe the aspect of the topic sentence would be, say, Gallagher, and you give some, and she says children are better in marriage, and you give some details, some evidence to support that. And in the middle of it, then you switch to Catron, and so then you would say in contrast, or sometimes similarly, Catron says this thing about children in marriage, and offer the information. So you have 3 of those to do. And then you have a conclusion, and so this thing says summarize. We don't really want to summarize so much as to decide what sort of insights do we have in terms of marriage now, and how may that have changed people's perspective when they think about it. Or you may not even agree with either one of them totally, because we've all had different experiences with that. Some good, some bad. So you might want to throw in your own stuff a little bit. But don't put your opinion, just put who did a better job. Okay, so there's that. Let's get out of this for a minute. How are you guys doing so far?
At the end of the conclusion, you said that we shouldn't put like our opinions again. It's just like a summary and that's it?
No, like evaluation. So who do you think did a better job?
Okay.
Not really your opinion, but be objective.
Okay.
Who did a better job? And you're thinking about, well, they made a point, and how much evidence did they provide?
Okay.
Gallagher has a really, just a list is what she's got. And she doesn't provide the substance of her information. She just says, so-and-so said this. It may or may not be true. Catron is more of a thinking person. She's a single person. And if you think about it, Catron has a more defensive position because everybody would normally agree with Gallagher. Because people don't think outside the box too much. So Catron is thinking outside the box. And she's trying to represent those people that are not married. Why might they not get married? Even if they like the person they're living with, why wouldn't they get married? Everybody wants to know that. Why don't you get married? You've been living with them for years. Get married. Well, people have reasons. And so that's just as valid as people that are married. We don't tend to respect people that are in relationships not married as much. Maybe we do now because things have changed. I don't know. So these are maybe the kinds of things you would be talking about. I wrote in the last class, probably about half the class agreed with Catron, and about half the class agreed with Gallagher. So it depends on your lifestyle, your experiences and things like that. But you have to be analytical. You have to say, well, this person did this kind of job. With Gallagher, we might say that most of these things she's talking about, there's nothing new there really. I don't think. With Catron, I never thought about you might be lonely and when you're married. That sounds sort of weird, but if you think about it, yeah, you don't have all the friends you used to have. You probably don't call your relatives too much unless you live by them. So it's maybe not as connected, and especially if you don't have children, or if your children are grown up, then there's no family gatherings as much. It just doesn't happen as much. Everybody has their own life. They all move on. So she has some points. And she does mention an interesting thing. She says people get married for the status.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Well, I'm just saying, because people look at you different. They go, oh, you're married. Oh, that makes you a better person. Blah, blah, blah. But you guys really believe that because you're kind of young and you have a different way of looking at it. My generation is very old. your grandparents is what my generation is. So things were different back then, and things are different now. You know, people may have to move a lot. There's not the push to get married anymore so much, and then a lot of people want careers. Nobody wants to live poor anymore. They don't. Very few people want to live poor. I don't blame them. And that's
But I
good.
still think that the woman's goal, you know, is marriage.
Right.
Maybe not.
We are thought like that since we are
Right.
little. Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
your daughter? What does your daughter think?
Mine, she says that the little one, she says she wants to marry, but the oldest one, she says she don't want to marry.
Taro, how about you?
How old is the oldest one?
8 years.
Oh, okay. Mine, she does want to get married, but not right now. She wants to, you know, get a career first. And because I always keep telling my kids, well, my daughter, because my son already got married. But like me, for instance, I did a lot of things before I got married. You know, when I mean a lot of things, I mean like I did traveling. I think I was more mature. And I think that a marriage works better when you're more mature. I know that you don't necessarily have to be older to be mature, you know, but if you do things that how do I say it? I don't know, I guess just experience life a little bit on your own before you get married.
Okay. Well, one of the points that Catron makes is that one reason a lot of people aren't getting married anymore is because they're getting married later in life. And the problem with getting married later in life, you see more. When you see that, you don't just fall in love anymore. You look at this person more objectively.
Yeah, and they're having kids after 30s, so not younger anymore.
No, 1 or 2 kids, but not 4 or 5 anymore.
Oh no, but I mean after that age, before it used to be like younger, like I did. I had my first baby at 24 because I felt like it was my time to have a baby. But now it's like everybody's like waiting before I mean after 30s. I'm like
It's hard to have a baby after 30, and then when the child is like 18, you're going to be 48.
yes.
If you're 35, you're going to be like in your 50s. That's like, oh, it takes energy. It's going to be a lot.
You have no energy for your kids anymore.
Uh-huh.
Anybody. Yeah. So, okay, so there's different viewpoints. We want to think about that and bring them in. All right. Let's see. Cameron, are you there by yourself? Is Alejandro there with you? Maybe.
Who, me? Carrie?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not. This guy Cameron is at the bottom. See?
Yes.
He's usually works
Hi,
his
Karen.
hand. Oh, you hear him?
Hi, yes. I
Oh,
hear.
there you are, friend.
There you go.
Cameron, where's your picture?
Hmm?
Cameron, look at Cameron doesn't have his picture on. One guy in my other class, he had his picture on for a little while, and then you saw him fall back in his bed.
Oh,
He was actually under his covers.
that is why my Spanish teacher says, nope, you don't get credit if you are just there and you're not there presently. You don't get credit.
I might do that next time a little bit, but I don't want to. I mean, if people aren't dressed, okay, they're not dressed. No, that happens. Okay. So, oh, I see. I knew you guys were both there. There's the. All right. They both have big hair. Notice. All right. So you guys following along? Alejandro, you're following along because you were confused last time.
Yes.
You have your mic on. Okay, because you said you were confused. How are you doing? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to put you guys in groups. I want to put you in 2 groups. So we have, I think, 6 people. Where is our class? We don't know. You know, they're going to be listening to the video. I hope that's going to be good enough for them. I don't know. They can't ask questions that way. So I'm going to break you guys into groups, and I want you to talk about where you are in your paper, and if you think you understand what you need to do. What do you need to do? So make sure you join the room.
Do I have to press?
You have to join, yeah.
Okay.
So when is this class available, Mr. Osborne?
Probably about an hour after we're finished.
Okay.
You got to join the room. You got to join.
Oh,
So join. You're in room 2.
me?
Yeah.
How do I get out?
I'm just going to move you to room 2. Oh, they only let no.
How did I do that?
It just says join.
Well, I see Cameron. I mean, I see the name.
Cameron was joined and never in there anymore. He said join again. Okay. So you shouldn't be on this screen. You should be on in your group.
Let's see.
Did you move me?
No, you're not supposed to. You have to join.
How?
It should say join on there. I put you in a room. It should say join. It just says join. Kareem, could you find it?
Nope. Mm,
Because I put you in the room, so you should.
can you send that again?
I have to close the room to do that.
Where I'm at, it says participants, 3 participants.
And do you see anybody else?
I see you, and then I see the names of Karen and Cameron. And I was looking at Cameron's picture a minute ago.
Yeah, this is breakout room 1.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go to breakout room 2, so I'll see you guys. So you should be talking.
Oh,
Hi, Karen.
hi.
Where are you, Karen?
Pues
¿Qué pasó con la clase de español?
no empecé. Me salí
¿Por qué?
así a lo fregón.
No te
Al modo
puedo.
triunfante.
¿Por qué, Karen?
Porque nunca le entendí a la maestra.
Oh my God, Karen.
So you guys are back in the main room? What
Sorry.
happened? Was there nobody in the other room you were in?
Nope.
I don't get that. Let's see.
I still.
Yeah, so Charo, you're supposed to be in room 2. And Kareem, you're supposed to be in room 1. And Cameron's supposed to be in room 1.
Huh? I'm sorry?
You're supposed to be in room 2.
But how do we get
I
there?
move rooms? I don't know.
Hold on. It's going to close. I'm going to put you back in.
Okay.
It should say join. As soon as I'm going to close you up, and then I'm going to put you back in.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Natalia's in her all by herself in breakout room 1 waiting for you guys. Very weird. She must be lonely thinking they're supposed to be here.
They have her move.
Yeah, well, they're not joined. That's the thing.
Do we log out, maybe?
No, don't log out.
Oh, okay.
You just stay there. I will do all this stuff. You log out, you lose it. The whole
Oh,
thing
no.
goes away. Yeah, yeah. 9 seconds is going to, 8 seconds, 7 seconds going to close.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi again. We got lost.
Well, we lost Cameron, so I know what he did. But maybe he'll sign back in.
There she is.
There's Cameron. Okay. So look, when I put you guys in the breakout rooms, you guys didn't join. You didn't
Yeah.
join. You forgot to join. Don't go to in meeting. Don't go to in meeting. No, no, no. If you go to in meeting, you're gone. You're out of this thing. You have to re-sign again. So yeah, so you don't want to do that. Let me try this again. I can put 3 and 3 in a room, and let's see. You got to join. So join. When it says join, now watch for it. Ready? Put you in for a while. Cameron, why aren't you joining your room? Yeah, good. So how did it go, Kareem? Was anybody talking in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Does it help you?
Yeah, we were talking.
Okay, good. Yeah. We'll be here in about a couple of seconds, I think.
Oh, hi.
There we go. Okay, that worked out. Okay. So now we should talk about these essays, right?
Hmm.
You look at them and go. So let's look at, which one is this? I think the marriage is good for you one. Oops. Let me go to that. So these are seem to be long, but they're really, this one especially is easy to look at. So why marriage is good for you? This was, person is Maggie Gallagher. This was published in something called the Social Order, and in autumn of 2000, so it's like that old. So in yellow, I put her reasons, the things that she's arguing for, and then in green, I'm putting the other side. So she's arguing against it. So in this one, she says, well, children reared outside of intact marriage are more likely to have problems, is what she's saying. They're less successful. So it's better to be in marriage. And then she's thinking about what the other side is thinking here in the green. So she says, when it comes to adults, the case for lifelong marriage has been framed as exclusively moral, spiritual, and emotional. One side argues for personal liberation from marriage, that would be withdrawn. The other urges parents to sacrifice for God and or the kids' sake, which is kind of the traditional thing. You get married, you have children, you suffer until they're grown up, and then if you're lucky, you have some savings. And then the other side says, well, don't get married, be free. Well, don't take on those older responsibilities. Just like, enjoy your life. So those are the typical ways of looking at things. Here's her argument. Married people do much better than unmarried or divorced. They live longer, healthier, happier, sexier, and more fluent than married. And that's sort of her argument. Now, in this one, she says unmarried or divorced, but in her argument, she's really more addressing divorced people than people that never got married. So that's maybe one of her weaknesses in that. Something to think about. So the top 10 reasons why marriage is good. So this is the number 10, lowers the risk of men and women become victims of torture. And here's some information here. 2/3 of acts of violence against women were not committed by husbands or boyfriends. Okay, so that supports that. There's also other information there if you want to look at it. The next one, it can save your life. Married people live longer and healthier. And then she's got some information here. Even sick people, that she says, who are married live longer than their unmarried counterparts. Which in a way makes sense because you have somebody to take care of you. And I think when you're married, you probably don't go out as much. You don't take as many risks. Married life is pretty sedate. So maybe that's the reason it's safer. I don't know. And then this is where I think she has a bit of weakness. She thinks she's talking to the other side. She says divorced people, even years after the divorce, show much lower levels of immune function.
Levels of what?
Immune function. Can you guys see this?
What?
Can you see this paper I'm looking at?
No.
No.
Now we go back.
No.
Let's go back to where we are. Here we go. So that didn't make any sense, right? Too much to remember. All right, there. See, it's marked. in the scripture.
Mm.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is what I was talking about. She says that children, for instance, that's the big thing she thinks is most important. That they don't have these problems when people are married. And then she says, because of adults getting married, one side argues for the personal liberation. We talked about that a little bit. And the other one says, no, you got to sacrifice for God and your kids. So those are the ways people traditionally look at it. And then she says, this is her argument. Married people do much better than unmarried or divorced. They live longer, healthier, sexier, and more affluent lives, according to her. And here's her top 10 reasons. It's safer. She talks about lowers the risk. And she has some data in there. It can save your life. Live longer and healthier life. We talked about a sick person living much longer. But now she begins to talk about divorced people, not unmarried people, but divorced people. And she says divorced people, even years after the divorce, show much lower levels of immune function. And I guess my question is this. When you divorce, especially if you're a single mom or something like that, or even a single dad, or let's just say you're a single mom, but the man that you had married is still responsible for paying money. Don't you think that would introduce a lot of stress in their lives? And so if you're a very stressed person, your immune function goes down. In other words, you're trying to deal with the stress all the time. It's hard on you. So this is not about being unmarried. This is about divorce, people who are not married, that were married. So now she seems to have shifted her focus not to what it's like to be unmarried, but what it's like to be divorced. Okay. Number 8 is it's good for your kids, lead healthier, longer lives. And she has some argument on that. You'll earn more money, which may or may not be true. I don't know that that's true anymore. You know, this is from 2000. That's almost 20 years ago. Is this really true anymore? I don't know. Getting richer, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, it makes sense that two people together would save money for living together, and in that way they could, maybe buy their house or all that kind of thing. And she says they don't cheat as much. People don't cheat. Marriage increases sexual fidelity. Cohabitating men are 4 times more likely to cheat than their husbands. I'm not really sure what that means. I think it's worded wrong. Women's husbands. And cohabitating women are 8 times more likely to cheat than married women, wives. Okay, I think that's what she means. She just didn't say it well. Maybe that's true. I don't know. That's 20 years ago. So you could look that up. This don't go bonkers thing, I don't know about that. So she says that we could say, well, that's one of the things to argue. I don't know if it's true or not. People have some marriage too. It's not like it's unstressed. And then she brings in some research, but I tend to think her research is going to be pretty old. It will make you happy. It does seem that people married will always say they're happy. There's not a lot of people that are married that say they're not happy. Oops, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what that was. So good. I just don't think this is a strong reason. I'm going to highlight it just because she said it, but I don't know that it's really true. Your kids will love you more. I don't know if that's true. I just think that's an opinion almost. And this last one, you're going to have better sex more often. I really don't know about that. It's really a tricky thing there. She's got some data, but who knows? I know you have somebody living with you, but it doesn't mean you'll have sex more. And And this last one is sort of interesting. She says, what proportion of unhappily married couples who stick it out stay miserable? Now, notice this is what proportion of unhappily married couples who stick it out? In other words, who don't get divorced. Most people get divorced if they're really, really unhappy. So that's a tricky thing. That's not, you know, it's not saying that unhappily married couples will change to be happy later. What they might do is get divorced. So she doesn't. She's tricky about that. Okay. If you guys were looking at that, I'm going to put you back to the groups. And I'm wondering what you would compare there. So if you can talk to your group and see what do you think out of this thing, maybe that you would compare. So I'm going to put you in groups again. Just for a minute, or maybe a couple minutes. Tara, what happened?
Oh, sorry.
We couldn't finish.
So,
I can put you back in groups when we did this. I just maybe we talked about everything, you know, for you guys. So we should probably look at the, so you at least you got some, I mean, that one's a pretty straightforward one, but the next one I think is a little hard, the Patron piece. So we're going to look at that one next, just because we should go through both essays, I think. So we're going to do that one. So this one is Mandy Lincoln-Tron. Hopefully you guys can see the essay. She says, what you lose when you gain a spouse. So we know, okay, she's going to be talking about that. Right away, we know that. And then, so she's going to be making an argument, but she does do an interesting thing. She says, what if marriage is not the social good that some believe and want it to be? You know, it's just like the idea of, well, so what's going to happen when you're married? Are you going to buy a little house and put a white picket fence up, and the children are going to be in the yard playing, everything's going to be good? What? I'm not sure things work like that anymore. So tougher. Everything's tougher. This was in July 2nd, 2019. So they're both, this one's a lot newer. This one's 9 years newer. Than the, actually 20 years newer than the other one. This is more like modern thinking. The other one's like old fashioned in a way. This
yes.
yeah, well, it's not that it's bad, it's just different. This is published in the Atlantic, which is again one of those pieces where people are thinkers. They talk about what's changed. And she's talking about, since most people believe that marriage is a social good, not many people are really interested in knowing, hey, is it really becoming obsolete or no? That's an interesting question. Is it becoming obsolete? She wants to know. Statistics indicate that young people will not get married. Something like 60% are not getting married. They're just not, they don't get married. Doesn't mean they don't have relationships or friends with benefits or live together or however that goes anymore, but not so much getting married. So that's where she starts this thing. And then she says, in popular culture, the sentiment still prevails that marriage makes us happy and divorce leaves us lonely. And that never getting married at all is a failure of belonging to society. So that part in the green is the way she views what Gallagher's saying. She thinks, well, it's kind of what she's saying. Marriage makes us happy, divorce leaves us lonely, and if you never get married, you sort of fail in some way. You don't belong. So she's addressing the other side. She asks, what is lost by making marriage the most central relationship in a culture? Do we lose something? And it puts that, well, today only about half of Americans over 18 are married. This is down from 72% in 1960, back in the day. 72% in 1960, only 50% now, so it's grown quite a bit. And it's what you guys said, people are getting married later in life. We're getting older. 30 for men when they get married, 28 for women. 14% of people who are not married don't plan to marry. Another 27 don't know if they're going to get married or not. So that's a total of 41% are pretty shaky about getting married. But this is what she thinks Gallagher would say. Americans still marry more than people in the vast majority of other Western countries and divorce more than any other country. So that's kind of weird. That means we're very hopeful. We're hoping that marriage will be a good thing for us. We're hoping that we'll be romantically fall in love, that this is the person for us that's going to change our lives. On the other hand, so everybody gets married. On the other hand, they also, many people get divorced, more than the other countries. So that's sort of interesting. This is what she's thinking. Whoops, I don't know what I did there. I'm going to highlight this for you guys. Not liking me. Here. this piece right here, because I want to talk about
I didn't understand that part.
what it means. I know. That's why I'm doing it. The notion that marriage is the best answer to deep human desire for connection. If you want to be connected, that's kind of why you develop relationships. That's why you develop friends. That's why family is so important, this desire for connection. So she says, people are thinking that marriage is the best answer for connection and belonging. And she says that way of thinking is very seductive. And seductive means it convinces you, wow, everybody wants to be happy. They think that'll do it. So that seduces them into trying that. In other words, um, what's another word for that? Tempts them to get married. They're tempted. So they mostly get married. The other thing is people that get married young, often it's romantic, or I think most of the time it's romantic. So they get married. So it's kind of seductive. Everybody thinks they're going to fall in love, and it's what society teaches. And then she says, but wait a minute, I have some information for you. This person believes that while some of these couples may be married to take advantage of legal rights, gay people, because now they can get married. Most see marriage as a public marker of their successful union. So again, it's that idea of status, that if you're not married, you're not important, you don't count. That's why gay people were getting married, so many of them got married. They wanted to be, accepted in society as successful. And maybe the motivation why many people get married. So prestige, she's looking at prestige. Which again, she's saying this is maybe Gallagher doesn't say that, but that's kind of what she implies. It's more prestigious to be married, and this idea that it's going to save you from being lonely. That's a question in her mind. And then she says, but research suggests whatever its benefits, marriage comes with the cost. So now she's going to be going through the cost of stuff. Married people less likely to visit or call their parents and siblings, and less inclined to offer them emotional support or pragmatic help. Things, chores, they're also less likely to hang out with friends. So this is kind of what she's thinking you lose. That's one of her reasons. Single people, by contrast, are far more connected to the social world. So for her, that's important. And it might be true that when you get married, you sort of disengage from anything that doesn't relate to your marriage. World is not as fascinating as it was at one point. Then she develops this idea all the way down in there. She's got some more research, and then she says, hey, by the way, if you're living with somebody, serious partner, married or not, it enforces the norms that create social isolation. So not only do you guys get comfortable together, but you kind of just do things together. And in that way, after a while, you're not seeing your friends and you sort of become isolated. They move on to other people. And so she's saying, I was surprised in my own life how it seemed to have contracted, gotten smaller. I didn't go out as much. I didn't get invitations. Even her own parents didn't call her as much because she was married and she probably didn't have time for them often. So marriage has social and institutional power that cohabitation does not. She's back at prestige. So far, she's looked at kind of a couple things. One is the prestige. People want to get married. The other thing is they want to be connected. They don't want to be lonely or isolated. So those are two reasons she's kind of come up with. And she says the reason that people sort of leave you alone is because this idea of self-sufficiency. In other words, once you're married, you're supposed to be taking care of each other. Nobody's supposed to have to come in and give you money or feed you, or if somebody's sick, your husband or your wife should be taking care of you. And so that self-sufficiency might be one reason that young adults don't get married. until they're older, until they can afford to live by themselves, because you're not self-sufficient unless you make enough money to, have your own apartment, buy your own car, pay for your own food, that kind of thing. So that's another reason, this idea of self-sufficiency, especially in the United States. Go it alone. So is what she says marriage is kind of about. Those are issues. Now she's kind of deciding to come back to Gallagher. She's talking about this idea of wedding, and so many people love this idea of wedding, just getting married, and what that looks like, and how romantic that is. And then, but back in the day, a lot of people would just, you went to the justice of the peace, you might have worn your Sunday clothes, you may or may not have had friends. If you had a thing where you invited people, it was probably just somebody cooked and everybody sort of sat around and congratulated you, and maybe you had a couple of presents. But today it's different. These marriages cost thousands of dollars, the rest costs thousands of dollars. And as she says, expectations of marriage have changed, and they've gotten huge, ridiculous. Few generations ago, the ideal marriage was defined by love, cooperation, and a sense of belonging to family. Well, that's not enough anymore. Today, when they get married, this guy argues, people want that, but also prestige. They want to have personal growth. They want to have self-expression. The marriage is supposed to help each other become the best of themselves. So they turn to their spouses for their needs that once the entire community is sort of met. When people didn't have so much money, they depended on each other more, depended on their friends, on their neighbors. It doesn't happen anymore. You're considered weak if you're like that. And people don't help each other either. So we've kind of moved that way. And then here she's talking about children. What matters for children, she says, is not simply whether or not the parents are, it's not simply the kind of family you live in, but how stable the family is in. So Gallagher says, no, marriage is always better for children. Otherwise, they get into big problems, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't really give reasons for it, except that there's two people. Carolyn says, no, it's not really that way, because if the family's not happy with two people, or if there's some issues in the family, it's not necessarily stable. So it's stability that matters. And sometimes single people are much more stable with their children, maybe not so much money, but much more stable in marriages. So she says, now stability can take the form of two-parent family or an extended family, like, grandparents and aunts and people like that. But because of all the divorce and remarriage and stuff that's going on in our country, she says marriage probably provides only temporary stability for many families. If stability is what matters for kids, then stability, not marriage, should be the goal. That's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. Stability, not marriage. And that's a big argument. Something that I don't think Gallagher would like. And she's got good background for it, good sort of backing for it. Okay, and here she's talking about commitment. That commitment is also important. And she says marriages are less likely to end up in breakup than cohabiting. That's true. But the level of commitment is what matters to relationships. So if you're cohabiting, but you guys are, you're together, that's all. You're not going to get married. Maybe you don't have any reason to. Maybe there's tax benefits to not getting married. I don't know. Some people have grown children and they're living together, but they don't want to. They want their money when they die to go to their kids, not to their partner. So there's many reasons why people don't get married. Still, the commitment is there. So she says another reason why people don't get married is because people feel there's a stigma attached to divorce people. So they even in healthy marriages, they often don't want to get divorced, or they just decide they're not going to get married at all. They're going to live together because they don't want to have that stigma that they failed in some way. And then this last part is sort of interesting. She's talking about romantic stuff. And she says, love is the marrow of life, and so often people tend to funnel it into narrow channels. In other words, if you're in love with someone, do you have to be married? Do you have to have the children and the house and all that? Or can you just be in love with somebody? Maybe you don't even live together. Maybe the careers make it not possible. And so Americans' lives are changing. Two-parent plus kids family is only 20% of households in the U.S. today. That's interesting. Very interesting. Only 20%. Everybody says, oh, that's the standard, but it's only 20%. People that are married without children are another 25%. Very interesting. So what is that, 45%? So now we're looking at 55% are not married, for whatever reason. That's a lot of people. So things are changing, and she wants to point that out. And it may be that love pulls them together, so that's what she's talking about. Okay. So I'm going to put you in groups again. And I want you guys to talk about what you see in this one that you think you compare. Maybe everybody sort of share what they saw. I do that. Katron is talking about status. People get married because of status. People, this idea of loneliness is something she's said a lot to say about. She tries to deal with the argument that marriage is better for children. Marriage is always better. She tries to deal with that issue. And she also talks about what you might lose if you get married. So your friends, your life narrows down to a fairly small group of people compared to what it was. So you guys maybe make a list of the things you think you're going to be doing. Chara, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, sorry. I was reading that book.
But you got to join the room. There you go. No. How'd it go?
Yeah, yeah. It was just broke my heart, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Let's not
you know,
ruminate. Let's be back. Okay. So all right. So a couple more things I want to show you, and then if whatever questions you guys have. So hopefully you have some sense of what each essay is saying, and you can decide what you can compare. You can compare things that are unlike. So you can say, well, maybe Catrone is talking about isolation, and maybe you feel like Gallagher never does. And so you can say something like, what Catrone's concerns are that she doesn't feel like she's out there in the world anymore. Gallagher doesn't mention that. So you might find something else that you say, well, although that's not important to Gallagher, she does offer this other reason for being married. So you can compare things that are not alike. It's just better to compare things that are alike because it makes more sense to people when they're reading it. Then we can figure out who did a better job, things like that. So better like that. I want to show you, which you have, a couple of little examples because it's in your files. So you have this one, which I think is a really good one. And she's got her own title, Does Marriage Provide or End in Happiness? It's an interesting title. She's got an interesting hook. Is marriage the root of loneliness or is the pillar of a happy and stable life? That's a really cool way to start. Very cool. Then she has the definition of marriage. She offers some information about maybe why it's good, what marriage does to help people. And then she offers the idea that, but they don't always stay married. So she says, by reading these two pieces, and notice she says, this is the title, that's the author, published on this date, in this place. And this one, published on this date, in this place, offers opposing points of view. And then what Catrone does, and then what Gallagher does. A little more on that. And then, oh, she's got a lot on that. Okay. So this is not the whole essay, I suppose. I'm not seeing a thesis in there, what she's going to compare. That's the problem with this one. I don't see what she's going to compare. So the start is very good, though. If we look at this other one, all right, you know what? I maybe just had a piece of it. Yeah, that sounds right. Nope, that's all it is. Okay. All right, we're going to look at files for a minute. There's this one. I didn't open these that way, so I'll have to open this a different way. So this is Eduardo, who wrote a piece. Um, and his title is marriage about being happy or depressed? That's interesting. Notice his paragraphs are really short. They're really short. Um, there's no hook to this one. There's no interesting way to start it. It doesn't open this idea that it's all one sentence, actually. And he mentions there's some good things about it and some bad things about it. He says some people believe marriage is not what it looks like, but this is really needs to be a little more developed. Okay. And then he's trying to do sort of a, what is he trying to do? This, it looks like he's trying to do a little summary there, I think. And that's a little summary of that one. And so this is not a finished piece either. That's just the only piece he has done of that one. Okay. Oops. So this is sort of your instructions, what to do. You want to summarize each. So you're going to have an introduction, summaries of each, which could be in the introduction. And then in your essay, you want to compare the two essays' viewpoints. And then secondly, argue what contributes to the best assessment of marriage. That would be your conclusion. Like what does each contribute to the best assessment of marriage and its relationship to happy relationships for adults who may or may not have children. They don't always have children. Most today won't have children. You should think on the theme that you want to look at, or your thesis rather. That's not as important as developing a thesis. Thinking about what points are going to be compared, and you know how you might be looking at it, how you might view marriage. Is marriage a trap? Is it the chains you wear? Or is it something that in some way frees you to be more of who you are? Could be two sides to that. The format's going to be an introduction. Set up the background for the issue, provide a one-sentence summary for each essay, provide a little background about what they're talking about, and place your thesis as the last sentence in the paragraph. And the thesis is arguing who did the better job, and it also names all the points. So here's more on the thesis. The comparative thesis should convey the argument in terms of how they relate to one another. What does each one do? Okay. Let me explain these verbs. These are sort of nice verbs to use when you're doing it. So do they corroborate each other? Do they both agree? Do they extend each other? Does one say, oh, this thing about the benefits, and the other one add something? I don't necessarily think they do. Does one complicate the other? So I think Gallagher's view with children and marriage is complicated by what Catron has to say about, well, what about stability? And in some cases, things are contradicted. So Gallagher's idea that you're going to be happy because you have your husband or your wife, and that, you know, you'll always have somebody, is maybe contradicted by Catron's view that, well, yeah, but what happens to your friends? And it doesn't look like you're talking to your family that much anymore. So when you're talking about them, you can kind of use those verbs. We're not going to do a précis. We would have done a précis, but I feel like the time is too short. I maybe will show you what the précis looks like so you know what that is. Précis is a good summary. But we won't have time in this paper to do it. We may do it for the next paper, I'm not sure. Body paragraphs should be organized by 3 or 4 points. 3 is really enough. 3 things you're going to compare. Each point, you're going to have a topic sentence in the body paragraph, explain what it's saying, and provide the evidence. And you've got 2 sides, so you have to split the paragraph between the 2 essays. So when you finish with Gallagher, then you have a comparison word that says, hey, in contrast, or on the other hand, something like that. Catron says this about children. And then conclusions should refer to your discussion and introduction. This idea maybe that we're not so sure anymore about marriage, or we're realizing not a lot of people are getting married. What are they doing in their relationships? Are they still happy? And then if you have any insight, you know, either from your experience or from what you think is going to be happening in your life, you might want to talk about that or reflect on it. Some young people are saying that times are different. People want careers. People need careers to survive anymore. You have to have a good education. And so people don't get married right away. Back in the old days, they got married 16, 17, 18, but all they had to have was a high school education. Now you need college. So those are things to be looking at. Now, again, this is in your files. All these things are in your files, so you can find all these handouts. The stuff we didn't go over today so much, but it's what we covered. So we kind of talked about these ideas. This is why marriage is good for you. So in the class, when we had the class, these were the questions we were thinking about. And we looked at one thing, which was happiness. We just wanted to look at one point. And to show you how the paragraph was organized. So you have transition, so you would say secondly, and then you have the topic sentence. In this case, it's something about being happy. The first side is married, well, happiness, married versus unmarried. The first side is whatever that happens to be, but it's you're gonna explain what the claim is. Say it makes you happier to be married, and then give examples. You're probably looking at Gallagher here. Oops, sorry. And have a closing sentence that sort of summarizes what you said there. And then you have a contrast word and transition, comparison, contrast, transition. Then again, you have what Catron say is arguing. Explain what it is. Sorry. Give examples. I mean, if you can find some quotes in the essay, that's really good. And close it out. And so that's what one paragraph looks like. That's why it's called comparison, because you have this half, one half, see, one half for, say, Gallagher, and one half for Catron. Looks like that. And with the thesis, which is the last sentence in the introduction, you want to think about how you're going to compare them. Oops. Probably going to prioritize one that you think is better. So in your thesis, you may decide that, say, Gallagher did a better job defending marriage than Catron did in explaining why it's not important anymore. Or you may go the other way around, that Catron identifies things that are of concern to most young people getting married today, whereas Gallagher seems to represent a past long time ago where things were different. And then you want to name the points that you're going to be looking at. So if you're looking at happiness or stability or children or money or whatever you're looking at, you want to be able to compare them to three things. So we looked at this one in class, what you lose. And so if you look at what?
I have a question.
Yes.
Between you move forward. So in the paragraph, because you're saying that we have to contrast 2 points.
Yeah.
But right there at the end,
No.
like a.
Wait. You mean
Back.
I'm trying to go to that frame. It takes a minute.
Like when you said happy marriage versus unhappy marriage.
Yeah, this one.
Yes. Okay. we have our 2 points, and
No,
then
it's 1 point. It's 1 point. Happiness.
yeah, but I mean the
Oh, you have 2 sides. Yeah.
yeah, the 2 sides.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, we should right there like tell like who for us like who was the best option if
Well,
it was
you're not really saying it like that. You're saying objectively. So you might say that, um, you know, Gallagher provided the best evidence. On the other hand,
okay.
Contron raised questions that Gallagher never answered.
Okay.
So you can kind of do it like that.
All right.
Yeah. And then let's move back that way. So these were the points when we were in class. It says what you lose at the top. These were kind of the points that the class decided that Kitron was working with. So you can look at those, that might help you some. We didn't do Gallagher because I don't think, wait a minute, let me get there. I don't think we did her.
I have a question, Mr. Osborne.
1 second. We didn't do Gallagher because hers is easy. She has 10 reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have like office phone hours with you so we don't call you at any time if we have a question? No, because my Spanish teacher, that's what she's doing. She said that somebody's calling her, you know, like late at night, and she said she wishes she would have not given us her phone number.
Oh, well, I haven't really given everybody my phone number.
Oh, well, but you put it on the canvas, did you? No?
No,
Oh,
did
okay.
not. No. You guys think that would be helpful?
I
I mean,
mean,
we
for
can
me, when
send
I
you an
ask a question,
email.
I'd rather ask it in, you know, I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not everybody is, you know, I mean, like if I have a question, I would like to ask you a question. Of course,
Sure,
I'm
let
not
me just tell you.
going to be calling you at any time, you know? I'm very
Believe me,
considerate.
the phone will be off. It will not be on. It'll only be on certain times. Okay, so I could do that, but what I'll tell you is, unless you have a general question, if you have a question about your paper that you're working on, then it's going to be harder to answer, but I can try. I just won't have your paper in front of me.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you want, I mean, I want to set up office hours anyway, but what I was going to do is set up a Zoom thing where you could just, you know, sign into the class.
Okay.
So then we would have a face-to-face, and if there was something we needed to look at, maybe we could, you know, share whatever that was.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to do that. I'll start that next week, I believe.
That will be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll do that. All right, so I think we've probably covered everything. Let me see. Yeah, so in here you have the prompt, you have the 2 essays. This is what you lose. I'm going to try those ones that I marked up. I'm going to save them. I don't know if I want to put them on the, you know, put them here because you guys attended the conference, so everybody's going to get the video. But normally what you have to do is figure out the essay yourself, and you may not agree with those points. You may have other points. So I don't think I might save them, but I don't think I'm going to put them on in the files, because I think that would confuse people. And then you have 2 examples, which are not the whole paper, but a piece of them. There's why marriage is good for you. So you have both the essays. Tracy, I'll just show you for a minute. We'll just look at that one. So normally, if we were in class, I would ask you to do this. And this sets up a really nice outline, but we just don't have time for this time. So probably in the 115, well, definitely in the 115, you'll be doing Tracy's. it's a 4-sentence thing, and it's a very specific formula that you can do. And that's the formula. And then what it looks like so this is what you probably had in high school, where you sort of fill in the blanks. Sentence explaining, naming the author, the genre, the title of the work, the date in parentheses. So this would probably be a nice thing for you to maybe do. If you want a kind of quickie summary, they're really easy to do. You can just fill in this format. So it's author, you fill it in. If we go down a little bit, you're going to see there's a column. So you would say article. Here, for instance, the author writes in E would be formal, informal, sarcastic, humorous. This one up here, the author's purpose is D, show, point out, suggest, and you put what it is. So this is a really nice thing to make a summary, to make summaries. And that's what it looks like in college. Has those kind of questions. High school has this kind of question. I think the high school thing is enough to set it up. We're just not in class anymore, and we lost some time, so we need to maybe not do this. But if you want to, at least make good summaries, and it's only 4 sentences for each one. So kind of up to you. Okay. All right, so we covered all that stuff. That's a heck of a lot of stuff. Does anybody have any final questions? Comments?
I do, but it's not related to the class. There's a class, well,
Okay.
it's related to
What
English.
is that? Okay, good. That's good. That part's good.
No.
Anybody else have any? I'm gonna wait for you. Anybody else have questions about the assignment? This one? No.
No.
Okay. So I want to remind you, if you have something that's supposed to be revised, make sure you're working on it, because you want to get that in. The idea is everybody has a pass, you're going to get a B. If you have high passes, it's going to aim you to an A. If you have enough high passes, you get an A. Part of your getting an A in the class is participating. So you guys are participating. There's only 6 of you, which means those other people won't get the participation points today. I will send them the video so they have the information, but no participation points. So that gives you an edge. So, but do get your revisions done so you get full credit. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I guess I'll see you guys later. I'm going to hang in because Charo has a question. If somebody else has a question, I'll hang in. Cameron, I hope you're not sleeping. Okay.
No, we're still here.
You are? Are
Yeah.
you sleeping?
No, we've been listening. Our camera's just a little wonky.
No, everybody thinks you're sleeping. I heard snore. Okay. All right. Good. Get your stuff in and I'll see you next time. Tuesday.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
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 So my question, Mr. Osborne, was in regards to the class that I want to take after year's end.
Okay.
How will they be posting that somehow so I can sign up for it?
Yeah, for summer. So you can already sign up for summer through admissions. And if there's classes that are online, they're not. I'm sorry, if they stay there on campus, they're not really. They're going to be online.
Okay.
Summer. For fall, it's going to be the same way. They're going to say, well, we don't know about fall yet.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is in China, it took them 3 months before they were actually starting to go out of their houses. And
Wow.
you know, and so they started in November, so that's November, December, January, February, March, they're still starting to get out.
Yeah.
Here we are, ours started, I think, what? Maybe February here? So we got April, May, June.
It's going to be a while.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to be super careful. Get a mask. If you guys don't have a mask, get one.
Oh, I do. We do have a couple of those N95s.
Oh, lucky for you. But wear anything. And
Yeah.
rubber gloves. And remember to wash your hands for 20 seconds. Leave the soap on 20 seconds. Because it kills the virus.
It does, huh?
In 20 seconds with soap. Regular soap.
Yeah, I still have to be working, be in touch with a lot of people.
Where do you go? Oh, where do you go?
I work for an auto parts.
Oh, that's good. So we
Who is
meet
this, Ilse?
Yes.
Mhm.
Is that you, Ilse? Okay,
Yes.
I don't see you anymore, so
I'm here.
He's
how come I
I
don't?
see you,
I can
Ilse.
see you.
Hi,
I can see all of
What?
you, but I don't know.
going away. Click. She can't figure out how to shut it off. She's stuck.
I am. I don't see anybody. You
People are
guys cut me off. Okay. All righty. Well, I guess we'll
Okay.
see you next class, right?
All right. Same
Tuesday.
time?
Mhm.
What?
At the same time?
Same time.
11? Okay.
Yeah, we may not have to go this long, but because this was a lot to talk about. So next time maybe a little shorter, but maybe not. We may only need about an hour for the lecture, and then you guys can just hang on and ask me your questions.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay.
Okay, you'll have a nice weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. I'm ending the class.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.